Pokémon TCG, the best, most wholesome hobby to get into.
$100 for the next person. You were literally the next person I want that.
Awesome. They just donated and they said, give everyone at the table a graded card.
Never had a most luxury Pokemon.
Whoever did that, I don't know where you are, but thank you.
Pokemon TCG, the worst, most destructive hobby to get into.
$3,000 to pick this item from Costco.
People call it selfish, greedy, toxic. It's meant for the kids. If I'm a scalper, so be it. I wear it with pride. Your booze mean nothing to me.
If you're like me, growing up with Pokemon and Pokemon TCG pretty much since its inception, you might be wondering the same thing as I have been. Should I get back into Pokemon TCG? I have two major regrets in life. Not sleeving up my Shining Charizard immediately that I've opened randomly from a booster pack when I was 13, and selling my childhood Pokemon card collection. These pictures are the only thing left of them. And, well, this Magikarp. I kinda didn't really think too much of me selling my Pokemon card collection. I was going through this phase of minimalism, and also this phase of moving abroad. And you know, it's best to own as little as possible. Little did I realize that what I'm selling are my memories. My memories of the hobby that I loved. Pokemon is not the same hobby as it once was. A large portion of the cards function as the stock market. People buy up large quantities of stock trying to flip them. A couple of years ago it was sneakers, now it's Pokemon cards. But I'm not like them. I want to get into the hobby because I like Pokemon. But if I'm honest, I also kind of like the fact that these cards hold value. There are so many hobbies that are like black holes where you just spend money, ludicrous amounts of money. But here I get to do what I love and also have a chance for it to be worth it? But wait, if I'm already thinking like that, won't I become like those scalpers? But more importantly, could it be that I'm just getting nostalgia baited and all of this is a horrible idea? And I know I'm not alone with this question. And therefore, my hope is that by the end of this video, you and I will both know whether this hobby is for us or not. Whether this is actually worth it, or if it's just our nostalgia brains playing tricks on us. Nostalgia is this silly old thing. It paints every good bit in your past more colorful, makes you do things again, things you wouldn't normally care for, and it skews your memories. To me, the figurative sense of childhood is this feeling of no responsibilities, a world where I didn't give a single damn about anything except going home as soon as possible to play Pokemon Stadium, or to try and play through Pokemon Red one more time for those TM24s and 26s, because I needed them on my new Pokemon. This nostalgia is why cats cuddle and purr even harder if you squeeze them, because that's how they used to feel safe sleeping on top of one another as baby kittens. This nostalgia is why they need, because they remember the time when their mum fed them, and as a cat you need for the kitty milk juice to flow. I am loved. I got some kitty kisses and now I'm being used as a... yeah, never mind. This is why us, grown adults, are drawn to something like Pokemon. Because even if we don't quite remember what it was like to be a kid without an actual worry, we can kind of relive that feeling through doing something nostalgic. This is why I was extremely cautious of my feelings, because even if I think that I'm the most rational, most self-aware human being on the planet, nostalgia still affects me. And so for the majority of last year, I was watching what happens to Pokemon TCG from the sideline. And boy am I glad I did. These videos are from 2025, when a set called Prismatic Evolution is released. To understand why this was a big deal, in this next part of the video, I want to take you through my observations of how Pokemon TCG as a hobby works. Let's start at its core. So everyone knows who this is, right? And everyone also knows who this is. It's Charizard, the undisputable king of Pokemon. But why is Charizard the most popular Pokemon? Back in the day, Pokemon had a predominantly male audience. An audience of young 10 to 12-year-old boys, like myself, who love cool things. But the female audience, the girls, weren't behind by that much. And when typical boys like me like cool things, typical girls gravitate more towards cute things. My opinion is that Pikachu wins the most popular Pokemon category because it's both cool and cute. Like as a boy, if you say, well, my favorite Pokemon is Pikachu, actually, no one's going to be like, oh, but that's a girl's Pokemon. This status of cool but also cute is only rivaled by one Pokemon, and that Pokemon is Eevee. While most Pokemon have a linear path as to what other Pokemon they can evolve into, Eevee has a non-linear path. It can evolve into 8 different species, all of which are kinda cool but also cute at the same time. I don't really hear people talk about this very much, but back in the day, Pikachu had a bit of intrigue. Is it a mouse? Is it a squirrel? I was of the opinion that it is a squirrel. Only later have I learned that Pikachu's name actually translates to like sparkly mouse. But Eevee is different. Is it a dog? Is it a cat? Is it a fox? What about the evolutions? What about Jolteon? Jolteon kind of seems more canine, but then what about Espeon? Espeon seems kind of more feline, but then Umbreon or Sylveon or Glaceon? This kind of intrigue and the added factor of coolness and cuteness really boost the popularity of this Pokemon. I think if we were to add all the Eevee and Evolution fans together, they would outnumber the Pikachu and Charizard fans combined. Now that we have a Pokemon popularity baseline established, let's talk about my observations. Many people know this, but prior to the release of Prismatic Evolutions, there was another set, Evolving Skies, that was featuring an Umbreon, nicknamed Moonbreon, as its biggest chase card. Umbreon is arguably the most popular out of all the evolutions, and needless to say, this card got immensely popular. After that, in more recent history, a couple of things started happening. Firstly, the popularity of Poke influencers. Pokemon TCG content on YouTube started popping off in 2024 and 2025. Channels like Coop's Collection and Deep Pocket Monster started seeing unprecedented viewing numbers. In my humble opinion, they represent what this hobby of Pokemon TCG should really be about. But do you know what comes with popularity? More popularity for the things they influence about? My second observation has to do with a game that was released in 2024 November, Pokemon TCG Pocket. This is a game I started playing a couple of weeks after release, and I will keep praising this game for what it is. A secondary option. First of all, it just gives you 2 free packs to open every single day. Second, the game is very generous when it comes to giving you in-game currency, which you can use to open more packs. And let me tell you, as someone who used to play this game in the top 5,000, this amount of points is more than enough to build 1, 2, or maybe even 3 of the current meta decks. But if you're not interested in that, it's more than enough to just collect the cards that you actually want. Somehow, in this game, collecting cards is just fun. It kind of feels like the real thing. You can display your cards, you can show your cards off, you can trade your cards. And there are some very sick artworks from people like Soso, Kamiya, Dan Xiao, or Shinji Kanda, all of whom have made artworks exclusively for TCG Pocket. People want to rage bait you into thinking that this game is a gacha game from the devil himself, but this is just factually not true. Not only there are no starter bonuses for your first purchase, not only is all the money stuff buried under a bunch of menus, but there are also limits as to how much currency you can spend each day that you have purchased with real money. Like, how crazy is that? No gacha has ever done anything like that. I never felt the need to pay for anything in this game, and I've master setted every single set, except for Deluxe EX. But it's getting close. So for me, this game allowed to feel like I'm collecting Pokemon cards. Sure, they're only digital, but hey, they're also free. But for other people, I feel like this game might have had the reverse effect. This game has convinced a lot of people to spend money on the TCG. And this is when January 17th comes into play, the release date of Prismatic Evolutions. Not only did we get this sick looking Umbreon, nicknamed Sumbreon, rival to the aforementioned Moonbreon, but we've got sick artwork for all other 8 evolutions, all of which led to... So I stayed on the sidelines. I kept playing TCG Pockets. I opened my 2 packs every day. I kept telling myself, imagine what this would be like for $5 a pop every time you open a pack. But you've read the title of the video. Something changed. So let me tell you the stupidest reason you've ever heard from someone as to how and why they started buying Pokemon cards again.
So last year was kind of rough for me. The thing is, when life is rough and you are thinking about starting something new, it could be that life being rough is skewing your perspective and you're just trying to run away from your problems by starting this new thing. Which is what I was thinking to myself when I had these thoughts of wanting to get back into Pokémon TCG. Up until the point I was starting to sell our furniture for pennies. You see, we were moving back here to a much smaller flat, which cannot accommodate all the stuff that we have bought for our abroad flat. As I was selling our last cabinet, I just couldn't watch it turn into grocery money. That cabinet was our entire life. Literally all our clothes could fit into this one like sliding cabinet, and we use it as a pantry as well. I know it sounds stupid, but we had memories with that stupid cabinet, and I couldn't let go of it, except I had to. So I went ahead and sold it for pennies compared to what it was worth. Unbeknownst to my wife, I took all the money and I've spent it. I've spent all the money on this. This is what our cabinet is now. Oh, and this Garchomp. This Garchomp is what started it all.
This was during last summer. After that, I haven't touched a hobby. I haven't bought anything else. I kept watching from the sidelines. I told my wife everything a couple of days later. I literally told her I would rather starve for 5 days than have this cabinet turn into 5 days worth of groceries. And she was not happy, but very understanding. I cannot understate just how much this meant for me. I mean, I objectively have the best wife. I mean, there's proof. There's your proof. That Garchomp really started it all. I bought it for around 120 euros, 140 US, and then it doubled in price, which was something I told my wife. I'm no longer in a dark place. We have money. And I told her, honestly, I feel like I'm in a place where I would be okay not buying Pokemon cards. But I still want to buy Pokemon cards. There was something else holding me back that I couldn't quite put my finger on. But fear not, because something sillier was about to happen. Something very scary, but also very, very silly.
So we are at this wedding expo. Why are we at a wedding expo, you might ask? See, one of our friends is an artist who had this great idea that she's going to sell live painting on weddings. Therefore, they have rented a table at this wedding expo, and she was getting very popular. By the time we got there, she was missing. So we're calling them, where are you, what's happening? Turns out, she had fainted. It was so scary, but it turns out she's like okay-ish. My wife is taking care of her. Her husband is running about trying to get medication and water, and their table is left unattended. And I'm standing there, I'm watching people walking by, and everyone's literally like this. Turns out this is like a trendy thing on social media, and they were quite literally the only vendors selling this service at this event. So I'm there. I'm thinking to myself, they have paid for this table, and now it's all going to waste. I had to do something. So me, who's looking rugged when everyone is in suits and neckties, jump in and I start selling this service that I know nothing about to random strangers. And I loved every second of it. Eventually, the husband, one of my best mates, comes and helps me out, which is appreciated very much. I finally learn what exactly I'm selling. He helps with the administration part, with the emails and stuff. What a fancy camera equipment we've got here. But why? Anyway, we end up getting like 30-ish leads, and that's when it clicked. I love this stuff. Talking to people, having this human connection. Imagine if the topic was something I knew and loved. I realized this is what I'm missing out on.
But despite all that, I still wasn't sure of myself. So naturally, things got even sillier. My wife and my grandma are at the supermarket, and my wife spotted packs of Journey together. And naturally, my wife starts talking about how I'm collecting Pokemon cards again, and and then we visited my mum, and I told my mum all this about the Pokemon cards and about the revelations that I've had. And the conversation went something like this. Wait, so you're telling me you're collecting Pokemon cards again? Yeah. Oh, that's great. Can I buy you some? For old time's sake? And my mum proceeded to buy me 2 ETBs that I have ripped open with my wife.
Look at that. Things have come a long way since I was a kid. Oh. I'm so excited. Is it going to be the same? No, it's Shuckle. The shot! I like a little pencil drawing. You take a sniff at a book,
My
and it's like,
childhood
oh my
smell-
god, smells like books.
Yeah.
My childhood smells like this. I'm so stupid. Why do? Here's another Piplup. We're sending this.
Jigglypuff?
Oh, look at this. Oh my god, you also scored one.
I told myself this will be it. By the end of ripping these two ETBs, I will know whether I want to get back into this hobby or not.
What do you feel right now? Do you feel anything?
That's a good question. Honestly, just when I grab a bunch of these cards and then I start like shuffling them left and right, when I do this exact thing, it's like, yeah, this is something I've been missing.
This hobby is the best and the worst at the same time. Kind of like all things if you think about it. But what then really decides which one is it? Well, simply put, your perspective. You can choose to focus on the scalpers and the content creators talking about said scalpers, with videos titled Pokemon TCG is cooked or Scalpers ruin Pokemon, this is the end. Alternatively, you could focus on the people who just show how awesome the community around Pokemon, and especially Pokemon TCG, is. There are bad actors in every hobby. You get to decide whom you will be focusing on. What about the part of me that's being afraid of becoming someone that I don't want to be? I will never not care about the value of my collection, but that will always be secondary to just owning cool cards and being part of an awesome community.
Yeah, and yeah.
Childhood. Yeah.
It's my childhood, but it's kind of more than that. It's so difficult to explain. There was a time in my life where I thought that the more stuff I have digital, like the less physical things I have, the better. Because if someone comes in and takes everything, but it's just, I'm going to say this in the simplest manner possible. When I think of the two collections that I've had, the old Pokemon collection and the Yu-Gi-Oh collection, and I think of how I don't have those anymore, I just feel sad. And when I think of how now I have a new collection, I just feel excited, because this is just a gateway into something cooler.
It's time for the big question, and be prepared for some honest and direct answers. Should you start collecting Pokemon cards? First of all, and everything I'm about to say is just my opinion, if you're in a rough spot mentally or in a tough spot financially, you should not start. A new hobby is not what you need. Facing your problem is. But okay, let's say you're fine mentally, you have money. Should you then get started with Pokemon TCG? Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. How many episodes of Pokemon have you seen in the past 5 years? Or maybe ever? How many Pokemon games have you played in your entire life? And no, Pokemon Go doesn't count. Do you know who these Pokemon are? Which generation do they belong to? Do you know what the generation is? Can you tell me who this Pokemon is? Or this one? Or this one? Or this one? Or how about this one? What I'm about to say might sound controversial, but do you know what? I'm just going to say it. If you didn't know the answer to most of my previous questions, if you have no idea what I was talking about, I think you should not get started with this hobby. Or if you have started, then stop. Get out. You're only in it for the money and you know it. You're ruining the hobby for yourself and for others. This cannot be overstated enough. Pokemon TCG as a hobby needs dedication. It needs knowledge, it needs understanding, it needs the intrinsic knowing of why this set will never be as popular as this one. However, before you label me too harsh, I think there's one exception. If you're a parent whose kid loves and lives Pokemon, I think you should get involved. I think you should commit. I think you should watch anime. I think you should play a couple of the games and get involved with this hobby with your kid. Pokemon TCG is one of the increasingly rare hobbies that parents and kids can really enjoy together. More than that, this hobby has a chance of teaching kids quite a lot of useful skills that are actually useful in real life. Things like how a market works, buying and selling, having human interactions, negotiations if you go to card shows, and also strategy in case they play the TCG, which I think they should. I'm telling you, if you're a parent in a world where social media is trying to pump your kid's brain full of slop, Pokemon TCG as a hobby is a cheat code. So yeah, watch the anime together, play Pokemon TCG together, commit to playing a Pokemon game, start to finish. What should I watch? What should I play, you might be asking? Well, as for the anime, it doesn't really matter. Just watch what your kid wants to watch. For the TCG, you can go to some local game stores where they will teach you the card game, or you could also start with Pokemon TCG Pocket. And for the games, Google List of mainline Pokemon games. Check the box art, and if you recognize any of the Pokemon, congratulations, that's the game you should be playing. If you don't recognize any of them, if you're literally just starting this hobby, then I recommend Fire Red or Leaf Green, Hard Gold or Soul Silver, or Ruby or Sapphire. Alternatively, you could play the Ruby Sapphire remakes, or if you've ever played Pokemon Go, you might enjoy Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee. And while I think you can play most of these if you own a Switch, if you know how to Google, you might find some even cheaper options. Let's just put it that way, okay? As for the rest of you, should you start buying Pokemon cards?
Like I haven't mentioned yet, these 2 boxes came from an online store, and my mum specifically bought them with 2-house delivery. But somehow they ended up in the packet box, and I sent them an email, have the boxes been mixed up, and a dude from the shop, he called me. And he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. We've got loads of packages right now. And for the next order, you're my guest. We're just going to ship it to you for free. And I was like, that's so sick. He was so nice and kind. This is what I feel like is missing. Not necessarily the cards themselves, but the memories attached to the cards.
You need to have 2 to 3 good reasons, and I mean good reasons, as to why you really want to start this hobby. As for me, I have found 4 answers. In 4th place is, I love fiddling with TCG cards. I love the feel of TCG cards. I literally put the bull cards from the 2 ETBs in order, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Okay, then I'm gonna go make dinner.
Should I ask if I should help?
In the 3rd place is the money aspect. This is a one-of-a-kind hobby where if you know what you're doing, you can enjoy the hobby as well as make value at the same time. How crazy is that? Have you ever tried other hobbies like cycling or skiing? My goodness, the amount of money you can just spend on those, never getting any return of investment, which is fine because not every hobby needs to return an investment to you. But way more importantly, in 2nd place, I just love Pokemon and I love TCGs. I grew up playing Pokemon games. I grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively for 4 years. If you could ask teenage me for his secret dreams, he would say, the secret dream is to make a living somehow out of all of this. And now thanks to social media, you can. But my number 1 reason, which is far more important than any of these,
I will always remember how we opened these really sick cards together. Basically, you opened 2 and I opened 1 of these, so you win. I will never forget that. I'll never forget how it was so funny when my mum told me, I want to buy some Pokemon card boxes. I'm 37. But she can do with a bit more nostalgia in her life.
Too. She missed the time too. I know that.
Yeah. I feel like this is what I was missing. And I know lots of people are getting into this hobby for the monetary value, which is something I also care about. I'm trying to protect the Gamechop here because it represents a big value in dollars. But the story of how the sliding cabinet became this is what's most important for me.
when I see Coop interacting with kids and parents and families, when I see Pat running about, searching for that card and the crazy interactions he has, I keep saying to myself, I want to be a part of that. So, I will be. Can Pokemon cards fix your life? To put it simply, no. But being part of this hobby may lead to some unexpected adventures that might actually fix something in your life. I know that for me, it already has. And I can't wait to share that journey with you on this channel. If that's something you'd like to see, then subscribe. Here's a bit of a sneak peek of what's next.
I have officially purchased tickets for Card Madness 2026 Frankfurt. I have never even been to a card show, like ever. And I'm going as a vendor.